Well, that's 2 o'clock. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the ILX PRINCE2 and PRINCE2 Agile virtual learning seminar. My name is Matthew Muller, and I'm the Sales and Operations Manager for ILX APAC, based out of Melbourne. Today, we have Peter Foster delivering the seminar. Peter is one of our lead trainers based out of New Zealand, who is an expert in the delivery of PRINCE2 and PRINCE2 Agile. Peter has 40 years experience in training organisations and individuals, and also running Tier 1 projects. Peter has consulted in numerous client organisations around project management, including many of our ASX listed companies, corporate ILX clients and individuals. If you have any questions during the presentation, please pop them into the chat and we'll endeavour to respond to them during the seminar, or we can follow up after the seminar with you directly. Please just use the private chat option if you wish to provide contact details. We hope you enjoy the seminar, and without further delay, I'll hand over to Peter to begin. Pete, over to you.
Thank you, Matthew, and welcome from wherever in the world you might be. This is one of the amazing things about this virtual world we're now working in. Recently, I ran a training course, a virtual training course, and I had people stretching from Perth through Melbourne, through Adelaide, through Canberra, through Sydney, through the Sunshine Coast, Wellington and Auckland, New Zealand. So pretty cool to be able to work with people around using 3 different time zones, but we managed to make that work very well. It's just an introduction, firstly, of myself. Been around for a little while. I've got grey hair. Involved in projects really in the 1970s, but as a project resource. The 1980s, early 80s, I got involved in a project which turned out to be a pretty significant failure. And it was a New Zealand public sector project. Wasted a lot of taxpayer money, and I discovered that projects could actually fail. I joined, it was in an IT space, a mainframe systems development project. Started doing a lot of training around project management through the late 1980s, and there was always something missing. 2006, I discovered PRINCE2. It filled a lot of gaps for me, so I'm a bit of an evangelist for it. 2007, I became a PRINCE2 trainer. I was the first New Zealand resident PRINCE2 trainer. You Australian people used to send your trainers over here prior to that. And then in 2014, I picked up Agile PM. And then as soon as the PRINCE2 Agile product was launched in 2015, the following day, I picked up my trainer accreditation for that. So I've sort of been around in projects and project management training for a wee while. Just a little bit about project management. And in the 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, particularly in the IT industry, there were a significant number of project failures in the public sector. So PRINCE2 was was launched as a result of that. And it was in the early 1990s in the UK public sector, specifically British Telecom, NHS and UK Defence Forces. But PRINCE was developed as an IT-specific project management method to overcome major control issues. So that was the start. And then in 1996, they identified really that the same issues that had existed in the IT projects also existed in non-IT spaces. So they took PRINCE and they took all the IT gobbledygooky techie speaky out of it and rebadged it PRINCE2. So PRINCE2 was launched suitable for any project in any environment, and it replaced PRINCE. Naturally, there's no point in having an IT specific method and a non-IT specific method. It's generic. It was updated regularly, virtually every 4 years until 2009. 2013 came along. They didn't even bother to update it. It reached a very high level of sophistication. And then in 2017, it was updated really to pull in a whole lot of agile concepts. So that's a little bit about where PRINCE2 comes from, and it's regarded as a best practice methodology for managing projects. Very big on control. The main beneficiaries of PRINCE2 is organizations. Project managers look at it and say, oh, this is a pain, you know, this is a bit more bureaucracy than I'd like to see. But the sponsoring organizations really gain from better return on investment in projects. In 2001, there was the Agile Manifesto was developed, and that became really the basis on which all Agile project management method or Agile development methods were based. And then in 2015, PRINCE2 Agile was launched, and that blended Agile development text into PRINCE2 as a project management methodology. So just a little bit about both methods. Firstly, PRINCE2. It's an acronym. It stands for Projects in Controlled Environments. So that's really what PRINCE2 means. Projects in Controlled Environments is the acronym. Originated in the UK public sector, really strong on governance and control. So its major strength is actually governance and control, ensuring you're doing the right projects in the right way. And the major focus is on keeping control of 6 aspects of performance. And if we think back to prior to 1996, the major focus on projects was deliver on time, within budget, and suitable quality product. And I was involved in projects where that was the focus. Problem was that scope got out of control, risk wasn't properly managed. As soon as you had scope getting out of control, your time got out of control, you went over budget. So projects were gaining a reputation for going over budget, delivering late, and not always delivering what was required. So PRINCE2 extended that. It became more sophisticated. The focus was on time, it was on cost, it was on quality. It was also recognizing the need to keep control of scope, to also ensure that risk was kept under control. And the major reason for doing projects is about benefits. So benefit capability became one of the other aspects of performance. So we talk about PRINCE2 as being keeping control of 6 aspects of performance: time, cost, quality, scope, risk, and benefit. So that's the introduction to PRINCE2. Now it consists of 4 integrated elements. PRINCE2 is based on 7 principles. It also has 7 themes, and it has 7 processes, and also has to be tailored to work in the project environment. Now, if I was to look at those 4 integrated elements, think of PRINCE2 as being a recipe book for successful projects. And in a recipe book, I guess one of the principles would be food hygiene and food safety. You never deviate from that. So principles we would never deviate from. Think of the themes as being the ingredients. Sometimes we do deviate. We sometimes substitute when we haven't got one particular ingredient. You might substitute another one. And also think of the processes as being the step-by-step, do this and then do that and then do something else through the recipe, so you end up with a lovely dish that you eat at the end of the day. And an experienced chef will vary the way the processes operate. I wouldn't, by the way. I'm not that good in the kitchen, but experienced chefs would do that. So that's what PRINCE2 is made up of. So PRINCE2 is very much principle-based. Principles live at the heart of everything we do in PRINCE2. You never deviate from them. They're universal, they're timeless, extremely empowering. It means that we can, when I talk about tailoring the environment, as long as the principles are considered to be sacred, we can change the way we apply the processes and the themes according to the unique aspects of our project. So these are the 7 principles. Key word on the first one is the word continued. I guess some of us who may have been around projects for a wee while use developing business cases, and I have seen environments or projects where the business case was used to get approval on funding, after which it was never ever referred to again. Well, PRINCE2, we view it slightly differently. The business case is kept alive, and if it's no longer worth it, we should stop. Why should we continue wasting money? The second one, learn from experience. Basically, it says we should never make the same mistake twice. So when we have a good or bad experience, we take a note of it, we learn from it. If it's a good experience, we repeat it. If it's a bad experience, we avoid it for the future. And we actually also make sure that other projects benefit from our good and bad experiences. Define roles and responsibilities is all about governance and control. It's about ensuring that there is accountability and responsibility in the customer service environment of a project. Managed by stages. Instead of giving you $40 million and saying, hey, I want a CRM system, I'll give you a little amount of money to say, let's work out whether it's worthwhile doing a CRM system, and a little bit more money, and we'll then maybe do some design work, a little bit more money, and we'll do some procurement, and eventually we might end up with a CRM system. But if we're applying continued business justification, if it's no longer worth it after one of those stage ends, well, we'd abandon. So managed by stages is it just breaks the project down into sensible planning horizons and creates little fire breaks, and we can reassess that business justification. Managed by exception, it's a great way of delegating. If I was to give you, say, $1 million for a stage of a project and say, I want this done by Christmas, plus or minus 10% on the $1 million, plus or minus 2 weeks on that 31st of December, for example, that means you know exactly when you would have to escalate. As long as you are forecasting to come in between 0.9 and 1.1 million, you keep on managing. And as long as you're always forecasting to finish between 17 December and 14 January, you keep on managing. But when one of those tolerances comes under threat, that's when you need to escalate. We call it an exception condition. Great way of delegating. People know what their authority for decision making is and when they have to escalate. It's also a wonderful use of senior management time. They don't have to worry about micromanaging, but they also know that when important decisions have to be made, that the project manager will come to them for a decision. Focus on products. In the big picture, a big scheme of things, do we really care about the work that's being done, or do we care about the products that are being delivered? Well, obviously the products are the most important thing. So our major focus here is on delivering products or outputs from the project which work, which suit the customer requirements and will therefore be benefit capable and therefore support the business justification. And then the last of the principles, tailor the whole thing to suit the environment. PRINCE2 should never be viewed as a one size fits all. It needs to be tailored either for the size of the project or to fit with your project environment, your governance and control requirements. PRINCE2 has 7 themes, and this is what they are. Basically, this is the ingredients that make up a project. So the principles are sacred, not negotiable. The themes are the ingredients and they can be tailored. And at any one time, we are dealing with one or more of those themes. So we say that these are aspects of project management which are addressed continuously throughout the project and often in parallel. And quite often we're actually dealing with 2, 3, sometimes even 4 themes at any one point in time. We also have a process model in PRINCE2. So there are 7 processes. The processes are shared across the different levels of management in the governance and control structure. So we have here a process, this directing level. This is one of the levels of management. So sitting above your project, you have this corporate or program level. This is the group who commission the project. They appoint a project sponsor or an executive, we call them in PRINCE2. From there on, they manage by exception. They provide some sort of mandate which triggers the starting up a project process. And from there on, these people only get involved when things go really wrong. So we have here a process called startup, which is called pre-project preparation. It's shared between the directing and managing levels. So this is your project manager at this managing level. And this is all pre-project preparation. The directing level, so this is your project board, or you might call it a steering group. They're only involved in directing a project after the pre-project stage. So they are only there for important decisions. So they manage by exception. The project manager owns all of these other processes here. These are all project manager processes. So it's about initiation and planning. It's about getting ready for project board decisions. It's about controlling a stage at a time at a management level. And it's also about also getting work done, but using the development teams who are at this delivering level down here. So there's your development teams down here doing managing product delivery. Now, PRINCE2 is huge on governance and control. So if we think about this model here, all of this, and in fact, you could probably include that top level as well, is our governance and control level, and down here is the product development level. So very, very strong on control. So that's just the PRINCE2 process model. Oops, let's take me to the right place. Yes, an overview of Agile. So the term Agile is viewed in a huge number of different ways. It could be viewed as, some people look at it and say it's Scrum, which is one of the Agile development methods. Others might look at it and say, oh, Agile to me is Kanban. Others might look at it and say, oh, it's iterative development, so we can have waterfall versus iterative development. It's got a huge number of different interpretations. Agile is a collection of behaviors, frameworks, concepts, and techniques, which collectively can be turned agile. So there's no dedicated agile method, for example. There's a whole bunch of techniques and frameworks which collectively can characterize agile. There is a manifesto development for Agile. It's the closest single definition, and it was created as an alternative to waterfall. And originally, Agile was developed in the IT industry. A lot of the frameworks are around IT development, specifically initially software development. But a lot of the Agile methods are also generic, non-IT specific. We'll introduce a few of those in a minute. So that's just an introduction to the term Agile. Oops, here we are. Yes. So I used the words before, waterfall or iterative and incremental. If I go back to my original IT project failures in the 1980s, we talked about starting off with analysis. We then moved into design. So this might be, say, analysis, design, programming, testing, implementation. And that was what I call a waterfall approach to project management, a linear serial. So this might be 3 years, and finally, on a significant project, something goes into operational use. Well, that's the waterfall. Iterative and incremental says we reiterate a whole bunch of short iterations of analysis, design, coding, testing, go live. And in parallel, analysis, design, coding, testing, go live. So what we actually have now is a whole lot of little short go lives, little mini go lives throughout the project, so that you have these little, we call them increments, going live. So you're having partial go lives happen throughout the project. So that's the incremental and iterative approach to product development. And that's one of the major benefits of Agile, is that you actually get something going live earlier. Now, I mentioned not long ago Agile frameworks. There are lots of them out there. And on this slide, you can see some examples. Scrum, really probably the most commonly known framework is the Scrum framework. Kanban, which actually came originally out of the automotive industry in Japan, which is really a way of controlling flow, controlling workflow. Lean startup, which originally actually came out of startup businesses, and incremental and iterative development of products. There are a whole bunch of IT-specific Agile methods, extreme programming, scaled Agile framework, disciplined Agile development, DevOps, feature-driven development, Crystal. There are a whole bunch of very specific IT-only methods. None of those are project management methods. So everything I've highlighted so far are product development methods. So they sit at the level of getting teams delivering products. Only one Agile method is this one here, DSDM, Dynamic Solution Development Method, also known as Agile PM. That is a project method in its own right, but all of the others are purely product development methods. So that's just an introduction to Agile. This is some of the examples of behaviors, concepts, and techniques used in Agile. So behaviors such as collaboration, self-organizing teams, customer-focused, empowerment, trusting, not blaming. Similar terms to that would be principles, values, mindsets. Concepts, prioritizing what's being delivered, iterative working, incremental delivery, not delivering everything, it should say time focused, inspection and adaptation, Kaizen, limiting work in progress. Sometimes also known as fundamentals. Some of the techniques we might use: burn charts, user stories, retrospectives, time boxing, flow measurement, also sometimes referred to as practices. So this is some of the techniques or the concepts we talk about in the pure Agile space. Now, there's nothing to stop. Nothing in PRINCE2 prevents any of these things being introduced. So that's one of the reasons why PRINCE2 Agile was launched. So basically we had PRINCE2, and the strengths of PRINCE2 very much lie in control. It's in governance and control. So the thinking cascades downwards. So we start at the top-down thinking, and it's very much about control from the top towards product delivery. Whereas Agile's thinking, the major focus is actually on product delivery. So their thinking cascades up. So when we blend the two, we gain the benefits of both. See, Agile is all about rapid product development, whereas PRINCE2 is all about control. So by blending them, we gain the best of both worlds. We have the focus on governance and control. We come in on time within budget and all the rest of it. But we're also focusing on making sure that we deliver something. So that's the reason why PRINCE2 and Agile being blended is really, really powerful. So it's about blending and weaving. They've both got their strengths. We'll talk about who they're for in a minute. We'll talk about it now. PRINCE2. It's mainly for those who will manage any project in any environment and organisations needing to exercise control over costs, timescales, scope, risk, quality and benefits. So any organisation benefits from PRINCE2. PRINCE2 Agile. If you wish to still maintain that PRINCE2 levels of control, but blend agile, rapid application development and product development tools into a PRINCE2 environment, then PRINCE2 Agile is suitable. If you don't know at the start of a project what you don't even know, so quite often we think we know what we need at the start of a project. Well, we don't always know that. So PRINCE2 Agile is really powerful when in environments where our understanding of what we really need kind of evolves during the project. Organisations currently using PRINCE2 wishing to become more agile will benefit from PRINCE2 Agile, or current PRINCE2 project managers wishing to adopt agile development techniques into their project spaces. Just want to show you a little something. Oops, I'd like to show you a little something. Here we go. Just want to show you something here. This here is the PRINCE2 process model. This is on my virtual whiteboard, which is one of the tools we use when we do virtual training. So this model, if we were to look at it, oops, if I can just switch this on. Hopefully we're there, yes. So this model, PRINCE2, all of this is about governance and control, and just this little bit here is about delivering products. So 90% of PRINCE2 is about governance and control. Whereas Agile, 90% of Agile is about delivering products. And only a small portion of it is actually about governance and control. So blending the two can have huge advantages. You gain the benefits of the governance and control in PRINCE2, but you then also pick up the benefits of rapid application development coming from the use of Agile. A little bit about pathways, accreditation pathways. PRINCE2 has been around since the 1990s, whereas PRINCE2 Agile has only been around since about 2015. So people may decide to do PRINCE2 Foundation followed by PRINCE2 Practitioner qualifications. They may also do PRINCE2 Agile Foundation followed by PRINCE2 Agile Practitioner. But others may already have PRINCE2 Foundation, but decide that they wish to pursue a career which is more in the Agile space. So they can take the pathway of doing PRINCE2 Foundation and then go straight on to PRINCE2 Agile Practitioner. And it's becoming fairly popular these days for a lot of people to do that. Well, I hope I'm being heard here. Hi, this is Peter. Oh, hey, Jeremy, got to go, mate. I thought that was some Matthew may be calling me back. So yeah, so that's this is the pathways, and from current slide. Now, virtual classroom, virtual learning. the COVID-19 lockdown situation put us in a position where all of a sudden we couldn't go and deliver training courses in classroom, which we've been doing for years. So it brought around something which I know Matthew had been talking about for a long time, the use of virtual classrooms. So the idea is you can now study in the comfort of your own home, or with literally all the benefits of being in a classroom situation. Avoid the hassles of sitting in traffic, staying in hotels. If you're remotely located, it's really ideal. Making really good use of your time. Your whole training day is spent in the classroom. And also, if you have to spend training budget on travel and accommodation, well, this is a way of making sure you just spend your training budget on training. So that's some of the advantages of our virtual learning. And if you think about what happens in a virtual learning environment compared with a classroom environment, in a classroom environment, I might have a slideshow like you're looking at right now. I might have a whiteboard, which I just showed you what I can do with a virtual whiteboard. We have exercises that we do, and classroom exercises are typically in breakout groups. So in a virtual classroom, we can also use virtual breakout groups. And also, if you think about a trainer walking around the training room, visiting the breakout groups, monitoring how they're going, it's exactly what we also do in a virtual environment. I wander around each breakout group and monitor what's happening. Quite often in a breakout group, we're doing document collaborations. So I can again wander around monitoring what's going on with the document collaborations, adding a little bit of coaching here and there. Quite often also in a classroom, the trainer is wandering around the room and just chatting with people one-on-one. Well, we have also the chat facility, which you've got available also on this webinar. We can also use videos in a training room. Well, the same with a virtual training room. We use videos. In a normal training room, we have practice examinations. We do exactly the same in a virtual course. And we also have, in fact, our exam invigilation's improved with virtual because people can actually sit their exams at a time to suit themselves using an online proctor. Whereas in a normal training room, the examination time is set at 3 o'clock on Friday afternoon or something like that. And for some people, it's when they are not really at their highest peak performance level. The tools we use, we have a product called GoTo Training. So it's part of the GoTo webinar, GoTo meetings, and GoTo Training as a family of products. So it's an online training platform. It's got amazing virtual classroom facilities. Picture Zoom on steroids. And also we use PeopleCert for our online proctored examinations. So in terms of learning options and ILX experience in this, we've been doing e-learning in New Zealand and Australia for a long time. We started doing this in 2010. 2,000 Australian graduates and 5,000 New Zealand graduates around e-learning. Classroom training in both countries since 2012. Blended options in both countries since 2012. So with so many options already available to us, COVID-19, it was pretty easy for us to transition from e-learning and classroom into virtual classroom. So it was a small step for us, but a giant step for mankind. We are aiming to schedule monthly virtual courses in which we can combine audiences in Australia and New Zealand. So really, in terms of learning options, virtual is just the latest addition to our stable of learning options, and it's been very easy for us to do that. So I'm aware that we've gone over time. I apologise for the little technology issue I had. I'm just pleased my mobile phone worked as a hotspot as well. And I'll now hand over to Terry and Matt, if you want to just say a wrap and say goodbye.
Yeah, well, thanks, Peter, and thanks everyone for joining. As you can see on your screen there, if you would like to ask any questions that you think of later on, of either Pete or us, please feel free to email through to the details on the screen or give us a call. That will conclude the presentation. Again, thank you for taking the time this afternoon, and have a nice day.